There are two ways you can password protect your document. One way is going backstage File, Info selected by default, click on Protect Document to encrypt with password. Click on it and type in your password, PASS. I know mine's very simplistic. Hit enter. And then to confirm that, go ahead and type in the same password, PASS, hit enter, and there you go. A password is required to open this document. Well, that is after you save it. So let's go back, click Save, close out, and there's my document on the desktop. Double click. And we need to enter in the password, PASS, hit enter. There we go. And then to clear the password out, well, File, Protect, deselect, encrypt with password, and then delete the password. Click Okie dokie. It says it's gone. Well, it will be. Let me hit back after I save it to confirm that I don't want it there. So when I close out and I open it back up, it opens. Cool. Now the other way to do it is by coming up here, clicking on the Save As. Well, I added the Save As command to my Quick Access toolbar. You can go backstage File to Save As, but when I click on it, I bring up the Save As window, come down below and click on the Tools and go to General Options. Because here you can also type in a password to open. Not only to open, but also to modify it. So you can have people, and you can do either or a combination of both. So first off, a password to open, if I just type in PASS, hit enter, it'll ask me to re-enter the same password, PASS, hit enter, and then save it. Well, before I close out, what you do in the Save As window will also be applied as we did backstage. Confirms it here. Password is required to open the document. So let me click back, close out, double click. There we go. PASS, hit enter, opens it up. Then to remove it, well, you can either go backstage, do the same thing, protect, deselect, delete the password, or let me click cancel. Click back, do the Save As thing, and go down to Tools, General Options, and delete it right there. And then click Okie dokie, click Save, close out, double click to open it up. No password, groovy. Let's go ahead and do it again. Save As, Tools, General Options. So what do you want to do? Just a password to modify? Okay, let's do that. PASS. Hit enter, PASS, hit enter. Click Save, and well, we don't need to save it again. It's already been saved. Close out, double click, and you can see if you want to be able to modify the document, you have to have a password. Otherwise, you can only read it. So let me click on Read Only. Okay, let me go ahead and make some changes. Oh, I can actually make changes. It lied to me. Oh, not really, because you can see up here on the title bar it's in read-only mode. Although that you can make changes in it, if you try to save it, it forces a save as, so it protects the original document. So you can't overwrite the original, it's password protected. So I have to go, oh rats. So we can go ahead and close out of that, not save it. Double click on it to open it again. And then this time, let's go ahead and type in the PASS, hit enter. And there we go. You see up in the title bar, it's not read-only, so any changes I make, ways, and click Save, well, we're good. Now let's go ahead and do Save As. I go down to Tools, General Options, and if you want a combination of both, how does that work? PASS, hit enter, PASS, hit enter, save our work, close out, and then double click. So first off, if you want to be able to even read the document, you have to have a password, one type of password. It could be the same password, although that wouldn't make sense, but I did it in this example here. So you can have one password for them to open it up. So after they type it in, they'd hit enter. And then it goes to the next step and it says, okay, you got past the first security screen where you have a password that you can actually view it. Now if you want to be able to modify it, you have to have the second password. If not, you can only view it read-only. So I've got the second password, PASS, hit enter. Cool. Now to go ahead and clear it out, again, Save As. You guessed it, Tools, General Options, and delete, okie dokie, save, close out, double click, and we have complete access. The marked as final feature is basically a flag to the end user that this is the final draft, and as a part of that flag, it will disable all editing tools on the ribbon and set the document in read-only mode so they can't make any changes to it and save the document. Now to turn this feature on, say, okay, this is it, we're done, this is the final document. Come up here, click on the File tab, Info selected by default, click on Protect Document, and there you go. Lets the readers know that the document is final and make it read-only. Click on it. This document will be marked as final and then saved. Okay. And then it says the document has been marked as final to indicate that editing is complete and this is the final version of the document. When a document is marked as final, the status property is set to final and typing, editing, commands, and proofing marks are turned off. You can recognize that a document is marked as final when the Mark as Final icon displays in the status bar. Didn't I sound like a TV announcer? Oh, I'm just giddy. Let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. And you can see this document has been marked as final to discourage editing, or if you're in the front stage view, there you go, marked as final. And as it promised, down below on the status bar, you got the stamp there. Well, I don't know if you can see the icon, but it's a little stamp that made its mark that says final, and you can hover over it. It says marked as final. And so you send it off to somebody, and then when they get it, they can go, oh, this is final. Of course, there's no security behind it because you can go ahead and click on it, edit anyways, but as it says, it's to discourage. You can come up here and click on the Home tab and try to use any commands here, but you can't. You can see it says the command is currently disabled until you go ahead and turn off the Mark as Final and allow changes to the document. Oh, okay. Edit, and now you can go ahead and make changes to it. I want to show you how you can create a form and fill it out electronically. As you see here, I have a table that looks like a form, and it's easy to see in the table where to insert, like the title in the title cell, and the first name, last name, and so on. These other fields, like the software interest, is the software that the client wants us to create a training video on, and the media type is after we create the training videos, how they want us to deliver it to them, like on DVD or as MP4s, so they can download it. And then the estimated time of arrival or completion. And then is the software that we're creating training videos on common, where we can go ahead after we create it and give it to the client, repackage it and sell it to other clients so we can make a lot more money, as opposed to it just being proprietary to that company, in which case we'll have to charge them more. So in that case it's not common. And then any comments and the action taken. Like when we got the new client's information, did we do a follow-up with a phone call, an email, or a postcard, or all three? So when it comes to setting up a form, you don't have to do it in a table format. In fact, if it helps, let me go ahead and select the table, come up here, click on the Layout tab, go to the data group and convert it to text. We'll do tab delimited and click Okie dokie. Table disappears, but not the text. Because remember, the text was white. So when it got rid of the table, we have white text against a white background. So let's come up here on the Home tab to the font group and choose our color, black. There they are. So you can go ahead and have it arranged any way you want. The trick is that you want to use the form feature or the form fields that you can go ahead and insert a field right here that they can advance to and type in the title, then their first name that they can advance to. And when I say advance, it's by using the tab key. Right now without the table, when I hit the tab key, it pushes everything from, well, right here over to the first name. And then if I type in the first name and hit the tab key, it pushes the first name over to the last, and it's just a big mess. So that doesn't work. Even so, if I undo all this and I go back to the table and I type in the title, Mr. and then Kurt Kershaw, tab, well, it doesn't go to the next available field. It goes to the label for that field, which is street. But if you use the form field feature, you can go ahead and designate the areas, like right here, with the box that says that when you tab to it, that's where they need to fill it in. And so when you lock down the form, after you're done inserting those form fields, then you can go ahead and it'll tab from one field to the next and bypass the labels because those aren't form fields or fields that we can go ahead and input information. Let me go ahead and hit undo a couple of times. And that brings up another good point about using the form feature, the form fields. is that the more you can control the input of the front-end user for data entry, the more accurate data you're going to get. So for example, like title, if we have Mr., Mrs., and Ms., instead of having them typing it in, I could insert a form field, a drop-down, that they can click and choose from one of the three, as opposed to them typing it in. Like if they type in Mr. with MR and no period, or MR with the period, you see I'm going to get different data results, even if they type it in like MISTER and spell it out. So if I can control that, I'm going to have more accurate data, cleaner data, as it were. And so to be able to go ahead and insert the form fields, either within the cells of the table here, or if you don't have a table, just below the text or to the right of it, however you arranged it, you want to come up here and add the Developer tab. So let's right-click, and I would say anywhere on the tab, but if you right-click on the styles, you don't get the option to customize, as I do over here, the ribbon. So customize the ribbon, bring up the Developer, because, let me click Okie dokie, when you do that on the Developer tab, you get the controls. And the controls that we want to insert, or the form feature fields, is right there. It's Legacy Tools. Click on it, and there's the legacy form. And the first three that we'll be working on, well, the only three here, is the text box field, where you just add a field for them to add text or numbers. Then the next one is checkboxes, so that way you can control what they can choose, like with the action taken down below. Did they make a phone call, email, or send a postcard? You can have all those three listed and then have checkboxes that they can only check one or the other or two or all three. Or if you want something that's more limiting, where it's an either or and not an and, like with the checkboxes, you can use this one right here, the drop-down form field, as we talked about in the title cell. When they click on it, they can only choose one of the three. They can't choose two or all three. So let's go ahead and get started and do just that. So make sure that you got the cursor where you want to insert that field, and then come up here, click on Legacy Tools, and let's add our drop down. Click on it. Adds a gray box, that's the form field. Now keep in mind when you're adding these fields, you're in edit mode. So for the drop down arrow to work, we have to first add the field and then set it up, how many items they can choose from the drop down list, like Mr., Mrs., Ms., and so on. In any case, once you insert it and you make all the customizations, when you lock it, then the front-end user can go ahead and fill in the form. Right now, we're in edit mode. And I'll show you how to lock it later on. So let's go ahead and to bring up the properties for this field so we can tweak it, customize it, and say, okay, these are the choices they get with the drop-down field. You can do it one of three ways. You can either right-click on it and go to Properties, brings up the properties with the drop-down items, close out, or with your cursor flashing in it, come up here in the Controls group. You got Properties there as well, of course. Let me close out, or you can just go ahead and double-click, and it brings it up. So for the drop-down items, we talked about Mr., and then I can either go ahead and click Add, or because the button is highlighted, it means it's an active button. So when I hit the Enter key on the keyboard, it's like me clicking on it. Mrs., Enter, and Miss, Enter, and then that's it. So I can go ahead and click Okie dokie, and when I do that, the default one is going to be up at the top, Mr. So when somebody starts filling in this form, if most of the clients aren't Mr., they're Mrs., well then I would default it to that, so that way they don't have to click as many times to be able to change it. Again, if the majority are Mrs. Or if you want, you can go ahead and do something like select one. That way it flags them to not bypass it in case if they forget to select the title and they just typed in their name in the first name field and last name, in which case you've got Sally left as Mr. if that was the default. So instead we'll say select one, and to make it the default for that field, let's go ahead and move it up. So when we lock the form, that will be the item showing. And I don't know about you, but when I see that, select one, okay, missed it. I didn't actually select it. So I'd click on that and choose one of the three down below. And then of course you can always remove the ones that you don't like, but I want to add it, and well, let's move it up again here. And then below that we have the bookmark. So as you recall in an earlier training video, you can use this in a cross-reference if you watch my cross-reference training video. What that means is that on page 2 of this document I have a letter. That I can go ahead and reference this field which currently says Dropdown 1, that it will pull in whatever the item is. So if somebody selects Mr., I can put that down below on page 2 as a cross-reference with dear, and then it'll pull in the cross-reference to here, and if it's Mr., it'll pull in Mr. Isn't that slick? That way I can go ahead and have a letter already prepared from whatever's filled in these fields here by cross-referencing that field and the name of it, which I don't know about you, but Dropdown 1. That's not going to help me identify this field when I want to do a cross-reference. So how about instead of Dropdown 1, we actually name the field title. Okay. So when I choose from a list of bookmarks that I want to reference the title field. So down below on page 2, after dear, it'll pull in, well, whatever their title is. And if they didn't select one and it just had select one, okay, that's not good, because then it'll say dear, select one, and then their first name and last name if I cross-reference those other fields, which I'll show you how to do. But right now this is in setup mode, so if you're like, hey, what's the bookmark for? Because you can actually pull in that field, the information from it, and in this case, or the example I'm going to show you later on, into a letter. So let's go ahead and click okie dokie, and there you go, select one. Now can you click on it and select one? Of course not, because we're in edit mode. We haven't locked the form down for the front-end user to go ahead and start filling it in. So let's go ahead and do first name, come up here, click on the legacy toolbox, and this is a text box for them to enter in text, so go ahead and select the AB text box field, adds it, bring up the properties with the double click, and you get some options here. Do you want regular text in this field? Do you want the data type to be number, date, current date? Well, let's go with regular text. And then as far as the maximum length, you could go ahead and let's go to 2. Well, that would work if it was something that you want 2 characters in, like the state, instead of Utah, UT, or New York, NY. In any case, I don't want it to be like that, so let's go ahead and go back down to unlimited and not limit their first name. And then the default text, well, you can have a prompt here because right here it says first. If the front-end user is looking at that going, first what? First time I'm typing in first, what does that mean? Well, help them out. Type in, you want their first name. And so after I click okie dokie, it'll say first name here. So when the front-end user is filling this out, it's like, oh, that's what first is for first name. Then when they go ahead and they start typing, it'll replace the default text with, well, whatever they type in there for the first name, like Sally, Joe, whatever. And then down below that, the text format, click on it. Do you want everything in uppercase? And notice that when I select it up here in the default text, it'll have everything in uppercase. So you have an idea of what the format is going to look like here before you click okie dokie. Lowercase, first capital, meaning that, well, you're not going to see it here because it's not going to convert it. The first capital is the first word out of all the words that are in there is going to be in uppercase. So let me show you. So if I type in everything lowercase and then I select it again or click in it, so there you go, first capital. So it took the first word and put the first letter in it in uppercase and everything else remained lowercase. That's what that is. Or you can do title case, so the first letter in each word is in uppercase. Cool. And then down below for the bookmark, we want to identify this if we want to pull it into another part of the document as a cross-reference to pull in the first name here in the form. You could do first name and then click OK, right? No, because the bookmark name is not valid. As you recall in my bookmark training video, it doesn't like certain characters, the least of which is a space. So we can hit the backspace key, keep it slammed all together, or do an underscore to make it look like there's a space, but it satisfies the bookmark naming convention here with no space. And then go ahead and click okie dokie, and there you go, first name. And let's do one more for last name. Click in there, come up here, click on the drop down arrow, text box, double click. You want the default text as last. Of course, I can type it in whatever case, uppercase, lowercase. It's the text format that will change everything. So I can do title case and it fixes it for me. So that way when somebody comes to this field and they type in their last name in lowercase, it'll take the first letter in the last name and put it in uppercase. And regular text, unlimited, things we talked about here. Then the bookmark will be last underscore name. And then I can just hit enter on the keyboard. And there we go. Now with these other fields like street, city, let me just go ahead and quickly fill those in. And then we'll go over the rest. Because, you know, once you learn how to do something as basic here, I don't want to slow you down by repeating it. So let me finish up street and city, and then we'll pick up with the state here in just a second. Now to enter the state field, let's come up here, click on the box to text box. Oh, and by the way, if you need to get rid of a field, just go ahead and select it, hit the delete key, and it's gone. Let's go ahead and reinsert that text box, double click. Now for the default text, if I type in state, but I want the maximum length to be 2 characters, well, you're going to confuse the data entry as well as Word because the maximum length is 2 and you've got more than 2. So when you click okie dokie, you get the raspberries because Word's saying, come on, practice what you preach. If your maximum length is 2, then you can only have as the default text 2 characters, as in, well, you could do ST. Let's click okie dokie and let's go back down to unlimited so I can have my extra text there. And then the text format, we'll do title case, and then of course the bookmark if I want to reference this field in another part of the document. So I can recognize that field, its state, and then click okie dokie. Now let's do zip code, come up here and add a text box. When you double click on it, you can convert it from a text box to a number field. You can type in the default number, like if you want to do all zeros. I suppose that's okay. But if the front-end user forgets to update that, you're going to end up with inaccurate data for that client. In any case, it's up to you. Then the maximum length, let's do 5 digits. And if somebody tries to type in more than that, it won't let them. And if they get so frustrated that they don't know what's going on, you may want to help them out with some help text. Go ahead and click on Add Help Text, and you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can add help information when they're in the field by them hitting the F1 key, or on the status bar when they're in the field, just look down below, again on the status bar there, to be able to see what you typed in. Or if you have an auto text entry, which we covered in an earlier training video, you can watch the video on auto text. You can select it and choose it over here. In any case, I don't have any, so I don't get the option. Let's go ahead and just type it in. So, selecting type your own. 5 digits only, please, or this form will self-destruct. Let's go ahead and select that and copy it so I can show you that you can not only view it in the status bar, but also when you hit the F1 key as well. Type your own text, Control V as in Victor to paste it, click okie dokie, and we'll go over that once we lock the form and start entering in the data into the fields, which we'll do in the next training video. But right now, we're designing it. So let's go ahead and say the bookmark for this is going to be zip for zip code. And oh, we can choose the number format. Let me click on the drop down there. You have 0, that in Excel, it makes the numbers visible. And then 0.00 not only displays whole numbers, but also 2 numbers after the decimal. And then when you got a pound symbol in conjunction with the 0, the desired result is to display the large numbers like in thousands with commas, as you can see there. You got percentages. In any case, go ahead and choose your flavor, or you don't have to do all zeros. You can do pound symbols. I got a total of 5 for my number format, so you can tweak it a little bit here, some flexibility. And let's go ahead and click okie dokie. Now these other fields, they're pretty much the same in that we learned how to insert a drop-down field and text box fields. So I'll finish the rest of the fields here until we get to the action taken, because there I want to introduce you to the third and final field, which is going to be the checkbox field. So go ahead and take a water break. When you get back, I'll have it done. You see what happens when you blink? It's magic. In any case, I've got all these filled out here, the things we covered. Next, I want to introduce you to the checkboxes. So action taken, there are 3 types. They can send off a postcard, email, or phone call. So I want to do it this way. I'm going to come up here, toolbox to checkbox, hit the spacebar and say phone call. Hit enter. Let's add another. And let's do email. And then I want to be able to add one over to the right. So let me click after phone call. Now I can't hit the tab key, as you recall, within a table, because then it goes to the next cell. But if I want to tab within the table, hold down the control key, then hit tab. Okay, it goes over just a skosh because the tab is right there. So let me control tab again. There we go. I mean, I could have hit the spacebar several times, but trying to keep the coding down as minimal as possible so it's easier to edit and or use more advanced features. So in any case, I think right there is pretty good. Let me come up here and do that and say postcard. Now, if you want to be able to get into the properties of the checkboxes, i.e. double click, you can see that you can change the size of it. Instead of automatically yay big, you can say it's going to be exactly 8 point. The default value could be not checked or checked. And then for check 1, if I want to cross-reference this, check 1 is not going to mean anything to me. But if I type in action underscore phone call, that's going to mean more to me. And then I can go ahead and click okie dokie and, oh, see how it shrunk there? 8 point. Okay, let's go ahead and double click and do that for the rest. Exactly 8 point. And then this one is, then hit enter. And then of course double click on this guy. Exactly 8 point. And postcard. Okay, now that we covered all 3 fields, like the drop down for selecting one, and then the regular text field to add text, and the checkboxes for them to go ahead and either check 1, 2, or the other 2, or all 3, we need to be able to lock down the form so it's no longer in edit mode, so the front-end user can then come up here and actually click on this, and it gives them a selection, like Mr., Mrs., and Ms. So be a good neighbor. Go ahead and watch the next training video to learn how to do a lockdown so the front-end user can do his thing, and to be able to actually enter data into the form fields. In the past couple of training videos, we learned how to add form fields. Now we want to lock or protect the form, because once protected, not only does it lock it from anybody making changes to the form, well, the properties of the form fields, like with the double click to bring up the properties for last name, or with the right click to also bring up the properties for the last name, but they can then fill in the form fields with actual data. So it'll be in data entry mode and not edit mode. So to go ahead and protect the form, we can do it one of a couple of ways. You can either come up here and click on the Developer tab, go to the Protect group and click on Restrict Editing, or you can also access it from the Review tab to the Protect group, Restrict Editing, same task pane. Just go down to number 2 and check the box, allow only this type of editing in this document, and make sure you got selected filling in forms. And then you can go ahead and start enforcing the protection. When you do that, you can do it with or without a password. Well, if I do it without a password and I click okie dokie, it's now in data entry mode, so I can come over here and click on select one, and oh my goodness, look at that. That is so cool. I can now select one. But if I'm like, you know what, I want to make changes to it, or anybody else does, when they come over here and click on stop protection, they don't need a password. And they can just come up here, double click, and say, you know what, I don't like Mr. in there, I just want Mrs. or Miss. Well, we don't want that to happen, so let's go ahead and enforce it again, but this time type in a password that they'll never get, PASS, and then type it in again to confirm it, then click on OK or hit the Enter key. We're now in protection mode, so if they want to go ahead and make changes and they try to stop it, they have to have the password. Oh well, let's go ahead and click Cancel. They can't do that. And let me close out of the task pane, and let's start filling in our form. Select one, let's do Mr. And to go to the next field, just hit the Tab key on the keyboard, type in me, and then when you go to the next field, you can of course go ahead and click in it, but when you start typing in your name, well, now it's inserted that in addition to the text that's already there, and that's not going to work. Let me triple click to select it and just type over it. That's easier. And then do you recall the zip code field that we added help for that field, that they can either view down in the status bar when the field is selected, 5 digits only please, or this form will self-destruct, or they can also hit the F1 key on the keyboard, and oh my goodness, you get your own customized window. Isn't that so tinsel? Well, the only problem is that if they don't know about the F1, hitting it in a certain field to get help, or looking down below in the status bar, well, they may need a little training. In any case, I'll let you do that. Let's go ahead and type in a zip code. And then anything that takes longer than 6 weeks, we won't do. Let's do 6 weeks. Yes, it's common. no comments. And then with the checkboxes down below, you can also tab to them. So there's the first one. You can see it's bold. You can hit the space bar to add an X, hit the space bar again to remove it, and hit the tab key to go to the next, or of course you can use the mouse. And congratulations, you just filled in your first form. Isn't that exciting? Well, what do you want to do next? If this is an actual client, I guess you can come up here and do a save as, and save it as Mr. Kirk Kershaw, client number 1, in which case you keep the original untouched protect form, but I'm thinking I want to save this, well, not this one here, this is just an example, but I want to clean it up and go back to the way it was and save it as a template. As you recall my templates training video, that way I can go ahead and when I want to fill out a new form, I can just select the template and it will create a copy of the template as a document for me to go ahead and fill in and never overwrite the original or the template. For me, it's a lot easier to do it that way and have it organized than to always go out and find the form protect document and use that, because when you want to create a new document based upon a template, you just go backstage. So to save this as a template, let's go ahead and unprotect it. Let's see, we're on the review tab, so we can go to the protect group and restrict editing to stop. PASS, hit enter, and then we got to clean these fields up. I mean, you could leave them with my information here, but I think it's helpful for the front-end user to not have to look at my information and replace it with somebody else's. And so to go ahead and reset these fields with the original text in it, you can come up here to the Developer tab, go to the Controls group, click on the Legacy Toolbox, and go to the Eraser. Reset Form Fields. Click on it. It's back to where it was. Cool. And then we can go ahead and start enforcing the protection. And I'm not going to type in a password. Let me just click Okie dokie, close out of here, and then to save it as a template, let's come up here on the Quick Access toolbar, click on Save As, or you can go backstage, file to Save As to open up the Save As window. Change it from a document to a template. Well, I already got one there, my spiffy invoice. Well, this one's going to be my spiffy new client form. Go ahead and click Save. And then let's close out of here. So when we're ready and we got a new client, let's just go ahead and open up Word, double click, and then go backstage because that's where templates can be found. File to New, our personal templates. There you go, my spiffy new client form. Isn't that spiffy? Click on it. And there you go. And let's just start filling it in. Let's say it's Mrs. Hit the tab key. Yay, we got a new client. And then we followed up with a phone call. Cool, and you can see up there on the title bar, it's a generic name, so it's going to force us to do a save as. It's not the template, so we won't overwrite the original, the template. Come up here, click on Save. Forces the save as. Of course, we can change it to a template and go back to the templates folder and overwrite our template, but we're not going to do that. That's the whole purpose of doing it this way, so we don't accidentally overwrite, which you have to go out of your way to select the type as a template. In any case, let's go ahead and scroll up to the desktop, and this is going to be my new spiffy client.warner. Click Save, title bar, awesome. And then if you want to go ahead and add a new client, again, File, New, Personal, my spiffy new client, and then go ahead and fill it in. Let me close out of here and not save it. Now, if at some future point you want to be able to take this data, like in this form, and import it into another database like Excel, Access, or any database for that matter, it's best that we export it into a plain text file, because when it comes to formatting, well, databases don't like a bunch of formats that it doesn't understand. Import it into it. It may reject it, if not in part, all of it, or have some funny information come over. So to go ahead and export this into a plain text file, without all the formatting and all the other stuff that goes with it, you want to come up here, click on the Save As, and go down to Tools, to the Save As options, go to Advanced, and scroll all the way down to Preserve Fidelity when sharing this document, and check Save Form Data as Delimited Text File. meaning that delimiters or characters that separate one field from the next, like commas, well, I'll show you in just a minute. Comma is the more typical one. After you check that, go ahead and click Okie dokie. And then you want to be able to change it from a Word document to a plain text file. And of course, you can go ahead and keep the same name or change it. And then when you're ready, go ahead and click Save. And it opens up the conversion window, and you can see down below the preview of it. For every field we have, you see it for the title, there's Mrs. It's separated by a comma, the delimiter. So comma, dot, comma, Warner, comma, the address, and so on. So let's go ahead and say okie dokie, and it's done. Close out of the document here, and we won't save it. Let's close out of that, go to the desktop, and there it is, my new spiffy client.warner text file. Let me click and drag it over here. And there's the original document here. So that got exported into a simple plain text file that when you double click to open it up, opens it up in Notepad, and it's got no formatting, just plain text. And you can see the delimiters that separate each field, the commas, so it knows that that's a separate field, and that would be the first name, last name, and so on. You want to see it in action? Well, I can show you one without getting too detailed, because I don't know if you're actually going to be doing this, but for those who do, here's just an example. Let me close out of here and open up Excel. And then to be able to pull that data from that plain text file into Excel, I can just come up here on the Quick Access toolbar, click on the Open Folder button, or you can go Backstage, File to Open. In any case, you're looking on the desktop or wherever you put that plain text file. Mine's on the desktop, but I can't see it because it's only looking for Excel files and not all files. Select that. And there it is, my new spiffy client.warner text. Double click on it, and it opens up the text import wizard. Now it says choose the file type that best describes your data. Is the data separated by characters such as comma or tabs? Well, yes, so it's delimited, and the characters are commas. So after you choose delimited, then you can click next to choose your delimiter or character that's separating each field. It's not a tab. You can see down below the preview, it's got the commas there, but when I uncheck tab and choose comma, it replaces the comma with lines to say, okay, we now understand that these are separate fields. It's separated by commas, so when you go ahead and click Finish, isn't that cool? Each one gets their own cell. And then you can go ahead and import as many as you like here from all the other client files that you have, one right after another. And then you can, push this row down so you can have a label row. So you can say this is for the title, first name, last name, and so on. In any case, you can watch my Excel training videos on that, but I wanted to show you that plain text, like in Excel here, is very importable. You want to watch my previous training videos on creating a form, because if you haven't, then this training video is not going to make any sense. Here I want to show you what's called automating the form, meaning after the fields have been filled out in my form, I can pull that data anywhere onto another page in this document, like down here onto page 2. I've got a form letter here that I want to address the right person from the form, and so instead of scrolling up and down between the form and my form letters saying, okay, who is the first name? Oh, I forgot. Let me scroll back up and then type in their last name, or you can even split the window as we talked about in an earlier training video, and look in the top part for page 1, and then down below this is page 2, and typing in what you see in that window. Well, don't do that. You can use the cross-reference tool that allows you to pull information from those fields down below here. I mean, automation just sounds so fabulous. And so if you don't know anything about cross-referencing, then watch my training video on it. But before we go ahead and set this up and insert our cross-references to reference these fields that we want to pull in, like for the title and then their last name, well, let me go ahead and finish my form here. So dear, title, then last name, Dreamforce looks forward to completing your video trainer requests for, and then we'll pull in the software field to cross-reference, and then the estimated time for completion is, we'll pull in the ETA field. So let's scroll back up, and we need to tweak the fields here if we want them to be pulled in as a cross-reference. So go ahead and double-click on the field to open it up. And as a quick review with the bookmarks, because when you're doing a cross-reference for the bookmarks, the name of the field, well, it used to be generically, as you recall, when we started setting up our forms, was called Dropdown 1. I don't know about you, but when I'm looking for a field to cross-reference to, if I have a lot of drop-down fields, what the heck is drop-down 1? Is that referring to the first field, which is the title field? Make it easier on yourself, or at least for me, to go ahead and actually type in the name of the field as the bookmark, so when I insert the cross-reference, I know, oh, that's for the title. So go ahead and update your bookmarks, something that makes sense to you for each of the fields. I just name it after the field. And then you want to be able to go ahead and check calculate on exit, because if you don't do that and you pull that in, it'll pull in select 1. But when the user selects something else and exits that field, it'll calculate it and update it when it comes to cross-referencing with the update from the selection they chose in that field. Like if they chose Mrs. Of course, if they go back to select 1, then that's what's going to be pulled in the form letter down below on page 2. So you want to make sure that you've got all your bookmarks updated with a name that you'll understand when you want to reference it, so you know what you're referencing, and to make sure all the fields that you want to pull in, as in this example, we just have 3 onto page 2, that it has calculate on exit. So just as simple as, let me click okie dokie, as a double click, and as far as what we're doing, I just need to have those calculate on exit. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and have all the fields calculate on exit, in case if at one point we want to go ahead and do a little extra work. So in a quick wink, I'll have it done. And well, I did them all except for the last one here, that yes, you can actually do it on checkboxes, double click and calculate on exit, whether it's checked yes or no. Let's go ahead and click okie dokie. Now with it all set up for our form, let's go down to page 2 and have this set up correctly, where we can insert those cross-references for like dear who. Well, let's do the title. And to insert a cross-reference, if you watch my cross-reference training video, it's up here on the References tab. Go to the Captions group, select cross-reference, make sure you got the reference type as bookmark, and then down below, I want to do title. So you see it says for which bookmark. If I had a bunch of drop-downs, that would be too annoying. But I know I'm looking for title. And there it is. Select it, click Insert. Cool. Close out. Let me add a space in between the title and there. Let's do cross-reference. Last name, insert, close out. And then Dreamforce looks forward to completing your video trainer request for what type of software? Well, we want to cross-reference. Scroll down to reference the software field so we can pull in whatever they type in that field here. Let me close out. And then the estimated time, the ETA field. Let's go ahead and cross-reference. There's ETA, insert, close out. Cool. Now I just need to do a little cleanup, like I've got an extra space between, well, what they select or what the input's going to be and the period. So let me delete that extra gappage there. And also for the software train desired, get rid of the gappage. And then, well, when I right-click on the text there, it's in Garamond as opposed to right-clicking somewhere else, which is Times New Roman. I'm just going to go ahead and select all those fields. And in the mini formatting toolbar, make them all the same time. There we go, Times New Roman, hit enter. Okay, that looks a lot better, all uniformed. Let's go ahead and scroll back up because we're ready. All we need to do now is go ahead and protect the form, lock it down, which as you recall, we can do it from the Review or Developer tab. Go to the Protect group, click Restrict Editing, and, well, make sure number 2, the editing restrictions, you got it checked and it's filling in forms, and then you want to start enforcing. I'll do it without the password and click Okie dokie, close out, and now I want to save this as a template or update my template. And I can do that by coming up here, clicking on Save As. Let's change it from a Word document to a template.dotx. And there's the template that we already saved in the previous training video. Let's just update it, override it with our newest new client form. Select it, click Save. You sure you want to replace it? Yes. And then let's go ahead and close out. And we're waiting for a client. Oh, we just got one. Let's go ahead and open up Word. And then go backstage, File, to New, to Personal, to my spiffy new client form. Click on it. And let's go ahead and fill it in. Now remember, on page 2, it's only pulling in fields from title, which if I do Mr. Now make sure you exit because it calculates on exit. If I don't exit it, well, it's not going to update it. So I have to hit the tab key or just move to another field. And then I can type in Kurt. Well, I don't have to do this. Type in all the fields. We can just focus on well, the 4, like the title, last name, triple click, software training desired, or 2016, and then the ETA, 6 weeks, and make sure I hit the tab key or I get out of that field so I can calculate that. And let's see if it did it. Let's scroll down to page 2. Dear Mr. Kershaw, oh, that is so tinsel. And Dreamforce looks forward to completing for Word 2016, done in 6 weeks. Now, don't you feel like a pro when you can do some automation like that? Pretty cool. I like it. And if you want to go ahead and print this off, of course, File, Print, and well, the preview's page 2. You want to make sure you only print page 2, unless of course you want what's on page 1, which, well, I don't. So it doesn't matter what page you're viewing. Just make sure in the pages you type in 2, because you just want to print in page number 2. Click Print, and away you go. As you can see, I'm using the same document we completed in the forms training videos. And so you want to be sure to watch those, because in this training video, I'm going to be showing you something a bit more advanced by using the if function. Now, I cover the if function in my Excel training videos, so if you want it in greater detail, go ahead and watch that. Otherwise, what I'm going to be showing you here should be enough for the purposes of this training video. So, the if function means that if somebody types in some specific text in a text field, well, back up here on page 1 in my form, some specific text in a text field here, or chooses a specific item from a drop-down menu, I want to then add some text down below into my form letter. Doesn't that sound cool? Now this text that I want to add, I can either type it in myself after I insert some fields and change the coding thereof, so it'll automatically be pulled in when somebody types in some specific text or chooses a specific item again from a drop-down menu, or I can have it pull in from auto text. And of course, if you watch my auto text training video, you know what I'm talking about, but I'll show you both. First, let's go ahead and create my auto text here and type in the text that I want added. When somebody chooses from my form on page 1, let's say from the drop-down menu, this one right here, Common Software, no. And as you recall, what that means is when we create training videos on software that's not common, that I can't repackage and resell to other clients, and it's just proprietary to that company, well, I'll have to charge them more. So when somebody chooses no here, then down below, before the letter gets printed and goes out, I want to be able to add the following text. Whew, that was fast. And so the text I want added is the software you requested video training on isn't common industry software and will affect the pricing. Please call us at, and there's the number. So I want to be able to convert this to auto text or have it as auto text to pull in. To do that, as you recall from the training video, you want to select it and then come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the text group, click on Quick Parts, go to Auto Text, and we want to save it to the Auto Text gallery. So when I click on it, I can't change the name of it because the name I'd like to give it is Common or Common No. So when somebody chooses Common, well, that's the purpose, is to pull in this text here automatically, hence Auto Text. And the only way that I can change it is that first I have to accept the default, click Okie dokie, and then I can change it. Where do I go to change it? As you recall in the Building Blocks training video, under Quick Parts there, which is found on the Insert tab, Text Group, under the Quick Parts, right there, Building Blocks, that you can go ahead and customize it here. Of course, if you can find it, and that was simple, but if you can't find it, you can go ahead and click on the column headers like name to sort it alphabetically under name or gallery to sort it there, in which case that's going to be up at the top because A for auto text, so sorting is setting, the A's are up at the top and cool. Go ahead and select it, click on edit, and instead of the name being the software, which what the heck's that, for me, when I reference the auto text, I want to know if I have a lot of auto text, which one I'm looking for, and this one would be Common No. So the common field, you choose no, then this is the auto text I want to use or reference. Now remember, you got to have at least 4 characters in the name, because if you don't, it's not going to work. I could have gone back to just com, but then that's not going to help me if I have a bunch of auto text and I want to be able to define it more, so Common No. And if it helps, you can go ahead and type in a description, but I'm going to leave it as Common No, click Okie dokie. Are you sure you want to redefine it, overwrite it? Yes. And there you go, Common No. Let's go ahead and close out and test it by deleting that and then typing in the first 4 letters of the auto text. The name is common no, so if I just type in COMM, there's the pop-up that says press enter to insert the auto text, and voila, it works. Cool. Let's go ahead and delete that and hit enter. Now next, we want to go ahead and insert our coding so we can reference the auto text so it's pulled in when somebody, or if to be exact, chooses no from the common field. So to insert the if function, as it were, the if field, well, first off, make sure you know where your cursor's at, because wherever it's at, that's where it's going to dump the text into. And so if it's right here, well, it's going to be right next to the period. And so it looks like you got a run on there. So you may want to hit the spacebar a couple of times if you want to include it in the same paragraph. But when it's hidden, it doesn't matter. But if somebody chooses no, then we want it to flow and look all smooth, right? So just a couple of spaces to start the next sentence here, if I want it right there, and I do. Then come up here on the Insert tab, go to the text group. We're going to go back to Quick Parts and choose our if field. There's the field, and it's sorted alphabetically, so we'll scroll down to the I's for if. There you go, select it, click Okie dokie, and it adds it. Now it says there's an error, you're missing a test condition. Well, you got to insert it first before you can go ahead and tweak it and say, okay, once it meets this condition and somebody chooses no, then go ahead and pull it in. Now to go ahead and see the coding so we can work with it, so we get rid of that error and actually apply a condition to the if function. You can't turn on the show hide codes because, well, come up here on the Home tab to the paragraph group to show it, because that's got nothing to do with dynamic fields. If you want to edit the coding for a dynamic field, then you want to hold down the Alt key and hit F9, and it shows all the fields that are changeable, updatable, like including our cross-references here. For the title, the person's title, Mr., Ms., pulls in there, and then their last name, and then the software, and then the estimated time of arrival, and then we've got our if right there. Cool. Let's go ahead and scroll down just a bit so I can get it more centered. Now with us being able to see the code, let's work with it and tweak it so we can pull in the auto text when somebody chooses no from the common drop-down field. Now what I want to do, there's if, and I want to take my cursor and place it in between the 2 spaces, so it's a good idea that we have our codes on. So I can insert the coding here. Now you can go ahead and maybe go off a little bit. That what I see somebody else do when I came to learning this training video, that I pretty much stay with it, because as those of you who know about coding, if you're off just a skosh, you add an extra dot or you don't have that extra dot, it messes everything up. In any case, this is what I recommend, and if you know more than me, fabulous, go ahead and place it wherever you want, but I'm going to place it in between the 2 spaces here. And I want to insert that reference to the common no, the auto text that is, by coming up here, clicking on the Insert tab, going back to the text group, clicking on Quick Parts, going down to Field, and we'll go from all categories to, since we're talking about references, there you go, links and references, select that so it narrows it down, to, as you can see, selected by default, auto text. Then it has a list of a ton of auto text names, but the one that we have begins with the letter C for common no, so we just have to scroll down to the C's. And there she is. Go ahead and select it, click Okie dokie, and there we go. Now what I want to do next is to place my cursor in between the 2 spaces. As you can see, it's a good idea we had our codes on so I can see the 2 dots there, the characters representing spaces. So it's after the if but before the backslash there. Go ahead and place your cursor in between those 2 spaces because we need to add the bookmark to reference the bookmark, which is the common software field. We're going to insert the field for that, the coding for it, so we can say if and then reference that field. To do that, we want to come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the text group, Quick Parts, Field, and we'll change it from all and go down to Links and References, and we want the references down below. And the name of the bookmark, as you can see, bookmark name, for that field is common software. So, as you recall in my forms training videos, it's a good idea that you name the bookmarks right, because if you went with the generic, good luck in understanding which bookmark goes to what field. So, common software, click Okie dokie. And so to keep in format, as far as the merge format goes, to make sure we have that in the inner set of brackets, as you remember in your algebra, that's how the if is going to function. Hence the if function does the order of operation, first set of brackets, the innie, then the outie. but we want to make sure that we got the same coding there. So common software, we want to go ahead and click inside the closing bracket for the reference to the bookmark common software, and then you want to type in just what you see here, like backslash, asterisk, and merge formats. Let's go ahead and do this. Backslash, asterisk, and all in caps, merge format. And then we want to go ahead and click just to the right of that close bracket for the bookmark reference and say equals, open quotes, no, close quotes. And I'll explain this in just a minute, but I bet it's making sense if you think about it. If the bookmark for that field equals no, let's go ahead and hit the space bar, open quotes, then if it's true that it equals no, then we want to go ahead and insert. So let's come back up here to our quick parts. The field, which since we were already there, links and references, we're looking for the auto text. Look over to the right, the auto text name, remember common no. So there's a lot here, it's sorted alphabetically. Let's scroll down to the C's. And there it is, common no, select it, click okie dokie. And then because we had an open set of quotes, we need to close it just on the outside of that wavy bracket after our insert for that auto text, close it. And then we need something to happen if it's false. If they don't choose no, they choose yes. We'll go ahead and do open, close quotes, nothing in between. And now I'll explain. So if the reference to this bookmark, that field, equals no, that they select no, then if it's yes, after it meets that condition, go ahead and do the first set of quotes here. Go ahead and pull in the auto text common no. But if it fails the test, so this is a true statement, yes equals no, true. If it fails and equals false, then it goes to the last set of quotes here, and there's nothing between it. So if there's nothing between quotes, nothing gets added. But if I actually had some space there, or spaces, or added anything between the open close quotes, well, that's what it would add if it failed the test. So if somebody chose yes, and you started typing in stuff or added space, then that's what it would add. And that's why I type nothing there, just so it won't do anything if they don't choose no. And now let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. To do that, well, I don't need the codes on. Let's come up here, go to the Home tab, Paragraph Group, turn them off. And we need to hide our dynamic fields. Alt F9, and well, it's showing it right now, which is interesting, but don't worry, it'll go away once we go ahead and update the form. But I played with it, and so it's showing right now. In any case, if it says that there's still an error on it, you can go ahead and right-click on it and update the field, and it gets rid of the error, or in this case it updates it, because back up here in the form, I haven't selected one, have I? So it doesn't meet the condition of no, so it cleared it out. In either case, it's not ready for prime, just right-click to update it, and it will show what it's like before you actually protect your document so you can do the data entry here and select one. So let's go ahead and protect the document. Come back up here, click on the Developer tab, go to the Protect group, click on Restrict Editing, go to number 2 and make sure you check all that allow only this type of editing in the document. Make sure it's filling in forms. Start enforcing. I'm not going to protect it with the password. I'll just go ahead and click Okie dokie. So I'm now in data entry mode. And you can see stop protection. Let's just go ahead and close out. And let's take it for a test drive. Select one. If I choose yes, oh, remember that we have to exit the field because it calculates on exit. So you can hit the tab key and just get out of that field there and scroll down. Did it do anything? No. Okay, here comes the big test. Let's go ahead and choose no, and it calculates on exit. So hit the tab key, just go to the next field, and let's scroll down and see if it does anything. Okay. Well, it's not updating. Word might be having an issue, but it should. Let me just go ahead and do it again. No. And let me click off and go down. There we go. Now it pulls in. Hopefully it's just my Word program that's having an issue, but hey, there may be an update out there to come and fix the bug. Hopefully it's just me. In any case, it pulled in. Isn't that cool? So if I come back up here and I change it, let's see if it goes the other way now, and I choose yes. And I click off and scroll down. Okay, it disappeared. Great, fabulous. Now let's go ahead and stop the protection. Restrict editing, stop it. And as you recall, I didn't type in a password, so none was required. close out of here. Let's do Alt F9, and let's go back to the code. And let's do a little bit tweakage to our coding here so I can drive the point home about the if function or the if field as a function to help you get more comfortable with what this is about. So again, if that field, common software, equals no, we've got the auto text, or you can go ahead and, well, let me click after the open quotes there and hit the delete key once, selects the entire field, hit it twice, it gets rid of it. So now I have the second set of quotes. That means if it passed the logical test, that means that if it does meet the test, or it does equal no, that is true. So if it's true, it's going to be in that set of quotes. If it's false, in that. So we got to have something if it's true, don't we, in that quote? So instead of using the auto text to pull it in with the field, you can just type in whatever you want. And that's what I meant at the beginning of our training video, where you can either do it manually, just type in the set of quotes there for if it's true, or just inserting the auto text field. So what would you like to type in? Something like, hey. You'll have to pay more if it's not common, and then a happy face, because we want people to be happy when they get bad news. In any case, let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. Come back up here and restrict the editing. Well, we probably better turn off our codes. I don't want to see that. Alt F9. Good point. And then come over here and, well, you can right click and update the field so it disappears. As you can see back up here, because it meets that, yes, because it's not set to no. In any case, we can't change it to no unless we come over here and enforce the protection. We want to enforce it, no password. And let's go ahead and close out of here. And if we say no, hit the tab key, scroll back down. Okay, it's not pulling in when I hit the tab key. In previous versions of Word, it did. But when I actually click off into another field, or this field, and I scroll back down, hey, you'll have to pay more. It's not common. In any case, it works. Now let's go ahead and do one more tweakage to this. So let's go ahead and click Restrict Editing so we can stop the protection, close out of that. Do Alt F9 so we can see our codes. And instead of doing a drop-down field where we're referencing it with the if function, how about a regular text field? So instead of common software, let's go ahead and do first name. Now you can do it one of a couple of ways. Since you already have the code in here, you don't have to reinsert the code. You just need to update the bookmark here from common software to, well, whatever the bookmark name you gave it for the first name field. You can double click and it's first underscore name. So click cancel, scroll back down, and we can just go ahead and replace this right there with first underscore name. Now you can do it that way, or of course you can do it the other way if you don't have a code to update. With it selected, I can come back up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the text group, click on Quick Parts to Field, and we want to go to our references here, and it brings up the bookmarks, and it's going to be first name. Go ahead and select that, click Okie dokie, and I'll insert it. But since I already had a reference of a field within the form, I could just update it to a different bookmark, the first name. Cool. And then for the first name, instead of no, because I don't think anybody has the first name of no, but let's do something fun, like if the first name is Harry, then if it does equal that, then for being true, we've got our first set of quotes. If it's false, then there's nothing there. But if it's true, and it is Harry, you can say, hey, leave that there. Hey, it's great to have you on board as our client. And if it doesn't meet that condition, or it's false, then you can say something like, I know, who's going to put that in their form letter to send off to somebody who doesn't have the first name of Harry? Well, the point is that when it's false and it doesn't meet a condition, then instead of leaving it blank, you can have something else. And I want to show you that if it has something else, that it would actually pull that something else in. In any case, let's go ahead and Alt F9, and we can right click on that and update the field. So, well, right now it's not Harry because there's nobody in the field, or more specifically, Harry's not in the first name field. So if you don't have Harry in there, everybody's going to have, hey, you're not Harry. Oh, that's nice. In any case, let's go ahead and come up here, click on the Developer tab, go to Protect, Restrict Editing, allow only this type of editing check, filling in forms. Okay, you've got it, right? Enforce. out a password. And so right now, if there's nothing in there, it says, hey, you're not Harry, right? Let me double click, but if I type in, well, let me close out of here because that's just taking up valuable space. If I type in Harry and I hit the tab key, okay, let's see if the tab works because it calculates on exit. So I exited the field by tabbing out of it. Well, let's see. Let's scroll down to see if that works. Hey, it's great to have you on board as our client. Okay, it works. In any case, it's great to have you on board as our client. Isn't that cool? So customizing keyboard shortcuts is basically a way, if you don't like some of the shortcut keys, to activate a command here on the ribbon or even the macros. If you watch the macros training video, you can actually reassign the shortcut keys. So to go ahead and reassign them, come up here, right click anywhere on the ribbon, go down to customize the ribbon, and it's right there, keyboard shortcuts, customize. Click on it, and over the left hand side it got a bunch of categories like the file tab. And on the File tab over here, you have a bunch of commands. You can scroll down and find one that you would like File to open or open a file. Ooh, it's got quite a few keys that are assigned to it already, like Control F12, Alt Control F2. How about if I add my own, like Alt Q? And then you can see down below it's currently unassigned. So if I want to assign it in addition to these current keys, okay, let's click Assign, adds it over there. Cool. And not only can you do it to the tabs here, but also let's go down to the macros. There you go. I only have one. Hi. You can go ahead and, with it selected, click in the new shortcut key and press any combination of keys like Alt Q. No, it says it's currently assigned to File Open. Oh, rats. So you can go ahead and hit the delete key, but when I do that, it wants to add it. So don't select it and hit the delete because it thinks that you're assigning that in addition to it. So you can select it, hit the backspace a couple of times, and then it gets rid of it. And if I want to use Q, but Alt Q is already assigned, how about Alt Shift Q? It's currently unassigned. All right, let's go ahead and assign it to the macro here. Or if I want to, I can go ahead and select it and remove it, and then close out, click Okie dokie. Let's do the Alt Q to see if it opens up the open window. Alt Q. Hey, it opened it up. Isn't that fun? Let's go ahead and click Cancel. And let's come back up here. Right click anywhere on the ribbon to customize the ribbon. It looked like I was going to customize the Quick Access toolbar, wasn't I? Well, in any case, even if you were on the Quick Access toolbar, it's not down below there. You have to go to Customize the ribbon so you can customize it there. And you get the last option to reset all, so any customizations you made, click on it. Are you sure you want to reset? Because it's actually remove all keys currently assigned to the macros and styles in the normal global template. Yes, it's toast. So let's see if it's true. On the File tab, remember File to open, select it. It got rid of my Alt Q. Oh, that's all right. I've got a couple others I can use. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.